Hey, everybody. Welcome. It's Thursday night. Welcome to the Cantina. Pull up a stool, have a drink, and let's talk some Star Wars. I am your host, David, and we've got a uh, slightly different cast tonight due to some not scheduling issues, but just personal life, real world issues. We have Debbie is out tonight as well as Andrew, but Cam, as always, is with me. Hello, Cam. How are you this evening?
Oh, I'm okay. It's been a day. It's been a week actually. So I'm kind of like you. I'm ready for the weekend. I'm considering Thursday like the pre-weekend.
The prequend.
Yes.
And also with us tonight, special guest Ro from the Scarif Scuttlebutt podcast. How are you, sir?
I'm pretty good. Thanks for hosting. This is I'm with you guys, man. Thursday seems like Thursday is my work Monday, which totally blows. But it still feels like, you know, we're getting there. We're getting there. So yeah.
I've always liked Thursday, even before we. I mean, I like Thursday because we get to do the show and we get to talk about Star Wars and everything. But always liked Thursday because I've always seen Thursday as just got one more shift before that weekend, and I'm
Right.
good with that. 8 hours. That's all I got. I got to do 8 hours, and I'm good. So, well, tonight is our last show of October. I've got other plans the next two Thursday nights. I'll be at a football game next Thursday, and then the Thursday after that is Halloween, which I've been told I need to live stream because I'm going to be running around the neighborhood dressed as Han Solo, stealing candy from kids. So maybe we'll do some. We should do a live. That would be kind of cool. I'll talk to Kat
Sounds
about that.
sounds like fun.
Maybe we can do like a live. Everybody kind of phone in and what are you dressed up for Halloween? Are you dressing up for Halloween, Cam? Do you do that?
I'm not 100% sure yet. I typically do. I have I still have my old Kylo Ren cosplay but at this point, I doubt that I could fit into it because when I had it made years ago, I was about 30 pounds lighter than I am now.
Gotcha.
So not exactly very forgiving, it's, but we'll see.
You know what? Since I've had mine made, I've actually lost like 20 pounds. So,
oh really?
Mine actually looks good now. So, or it looks better than it did, I should say. So, what about you, Ro? You dress up?
Sometimes it depends. I've got all sorts of goofy costumes. It depends on the complexity of the evening and how much I want to suffer. I think the first time I went Halloween trick or treating with my son, one of his first Halloweens, I have as you can see behind me, I have the whole Darth Vader outfit, and I put that on. But after dusk, if you don't have someone holding your hand, you are screwed.
No, I'm with you 100%.
Yeah,
I've got a Darth Vader myself.
My wife and my friends and neighbors, they left me, and I'm like sitting there, trying to figure how to get home with foggy lenses. So it really depends on how much I want to inconvenience myself. I might just put on a suit and tie and then just put on a stormtrooper helmet, or find a purple suit jacket at the thrift store and paint my face white and walk around with a retractable knife or maybe a pencil. You want to see this pencil disappear?
Yeah.
So a little Joker action.
A little Joker going on. Yeah.
So it depends.
I did Darth Vader. I've done Darth Vader. I got my Darth Vader costume back in 06. And I did Darth Vader for a long time. And then in 2018, I finally got my Kylo Ren, which Kylo Ren was really good because you didn't have it was easy to take the helmet off if you had to. You've got the shoulder armor with Darth Vader, and you've got two different capes going on over there, and it's just real hard to get your hands about right here, and that's about it. And so unless you're ducking your head really, you can't get that unless you've got somebody following you around kind of thing. So Kylo was a lot better, and I'm like, Han Solo doesn't wear a mask. This is going to be great. So I'm looking forward.
I've got some Han Solo stuff, but you really, I don't know. For me, it's like you really have to be able to pull off looking like Harrison Ford. Otherwise, you're just some, chubby Mexican in a Han Solo outfit. For my case.
You know what? I mean, it could be Lando dressed up like Han Solo at the end of Empire Strikes Back. So
right. True.
I could be Lando dressed up like Han Solo, but then I'm racist because I'd have to paint my face black. No, I'm not gonna. I won't do that. I promise. I'm not gonna do that. So tonight we're gonna talk a little bit. Just like I said, we're off the next 2 weeks. I just kind of want to go with the flow here. I want to talk a little bit just kind of about the evolution of Star Wars. How things have changed. You've got the way the special effects have changed, the actors, the stories. Just basically how Star Wars is presented. Now, I know myself and Debbie, we would get into this and we would say, "Well, what was your first experience into Star Wars?" And we're always, "Oh, well, we saw it in the theaters and blah blah blah, and Darth Vader was Luke's father, and that shocked everybody." And Ro, what was your first experience with Star Wars? How did you get involved in that?
Yeah, I'm like you guys. I saw it in the theater. I was overwhelmed as soon as that Star Destroyer went overhead.
And the
And
music
I
made
mean,
it.
absolutely, the music, the characters, and again, Darth Vader is my favorite character of all fiction. And again, obviously, when you see those doors open and he walks through, um, it was pretty impactful for me as a 7-year-old. And it's like, wow, this guy looks cool. He doesn't take no slack. And as a kid, you didn't know that he was kind of like the number 2 man. You start to kind of figure things out when he's in with Tarkin and Tarkin tells him what to do, and you're like, oh, what's going on? But he's still cool. He force chokes someone at the conference table, and you're like, oh yeah, I want to be that guy.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, I'm original trilogy kid, growing up in the 70s and 80s, and the rest is history. I mean, we always say Star Wars changed our lives, but sometimes it sounds too over dramatic, but it really is the truth. Star Wars does change our perspective on life, our perspective on ourselves, and George Lucas did it to inspire hope and imagination, and mission accomplished, because it's in our brains 24/7. I always say, if you cut me, I bleed Star Wars, but it has to do with not only the special effects of the film, but just really the messages, the characters, and the imagination.
The overall story, and I mean, it's the basest of base stories. It's the hero's journey.
Mm-hmm.
And God help me, I looked up his name today. Who wrote the book?
Joseph Campbell.
Thank you. I had an HOA meeting right before this show, so I'm like, my brain is just gone. But yes, Joseph Campbell, and it's the hero's journey to where somebody is thrust into something, and it's basically how he handles that. And that's, I mean, honestly, that's true really of any good story that's out
Sure.
there, any good work of fiction that's out there. You can look at just about anything. I mean, even even back as far as like Huckleberry Finn and Tom Sawyer. And the only reason I bring those up is because I listened to Huckleberry Finn audiobook the other day, and I was like, this is, I mean, it's the same type of thing. It's the unlikely hero that's thrust into something that he doesn't want to be thrust into, but still manages to pull through it and become the hero of the story. So it's not a new concept, I guess, but it's because it's so base in that it's very appealing to everyone.
Yeah.
So
absolutely.
Now, Cam, you were prequel trilogy era, correct?
Yeah. Dave, but my first Star Wars experience was I was 6 years old and I watched Return of the Jedi with my, at the time, stepdad. And it's not like it was something he actively sat down and showed me. He just happened to be watching it, and I happened to be with him that night. I sat down and I watched it, and I thought it was I thought it was a lot of fun, watching teddy bears beating the crap out of these faceless goons, guys waving laser swords around. I thought it was great. And then a few months later, uh, I believe I was still 6 years old at the time because it came out in 1999, but I think it came
Right.
out in May of 99.
Correct.
If that is the case, then I was still 6 because I turned 7 in September. Anyway, my grandmother took me to see The Phantom Menace in theaters, and holy crap, it was like the world opened up for me. Freaking sunbeams coming through the clouds. The clouds part, and there's Mufasa there. It was almost like a biblical moment for me, and that kind of started my my. I wouldn't necessarily say obsession, but I mean, it is a franchise that has heavily, significantly impacted my life, and The Phantom Menace was kind of the
catalyst.
the expanding snowball as it rolled downhill.
Right.
And that's a great way of putting it. I mean, when the clouds part and you see the sunbeams go through, I mean, I music kind of does the same, but I really don't remember hearing of any other genre that kind of affects you in such a profound way. I mean, music does, it gets in your system, it gets in your blood, but something about movies, because obviously movies rely on all the senses. You've got nostalgia and the sight and the sound, the story. I mean, it really bombards you, and your senses are like, "What the hell is going on with this?" And you really get affected in deeply emotional way. And Star Wars, we have so much Star Wars nowadays, but each Star Wars hits you at a different point in your life depending on where you're at. And I think that's the awesomeness of this franchise. I mean, if we still only had 3 films, I think it would be, the same effect. But now that we have a lot of other films and projects and things like that, there's fans from all over at every age, multi-generational. That's the great thing about the franchise as a whole, whether you like what's going on currently with Star Wars or not. I mean, really, it really does lend itself to multi-generational viewing.
And what's neat about it too is that so my father took me to see Star Wars in the theater. My dad is a big was still is a big Star Wars person. He loves watching. So in fact, I've got a shirt of myself and him standing in a Chick-fil-A, and he had come down from Arkansas to visit, and it just so happened we both wore the exact same Star Wars shirt. Not planned at all, but
Mm.
it was like one, and I've got this picture of us standing in a Chick-fil-A, both wearing the exact same shirt. And then I have since been able to take my kids, and even on a lesser note, my wife was, when we got married, she was like, I don't understand this obsession with Star, and it was even before we got married, because she helped. I moved into an apartment before we or while we were still dating, and she helped me move, and I was moving all my collectibles in, and she's like, what is this? I don't understand this.
You got one of those too, huh?
Yeah, yeah. And so we sat down and watched all the movies, and she was like, I still don't get it. And I said, well, here, take this book. And I had a price guide, and I was like, go look at some of those toys in there. And she goes, you've got like $10,000 worth of crap in there. And I'm like, yeah, I do. And she says, I still don't get it. Well, as we dated, where we sit down and you'd watch Friends, or you'd watch The Simpsons, or you'd watch, just TV in general, and there would be a Star Wars reference. And it wouldn't even come out and say that this is from Star Wars. It would just be a reference to Star Wars. And she was like, oh, that was from that movie. That was from Star Wars. And I'm like, yes, Star Wars was so ingrained in our pop culture that it's everywhere. It was all over TV. It's all over movies. You can't not turn on the TV and see something related to Star Wars. And she was like, okay, I get it now, because it's everywhere. It's huge. And in fact, even you had mentioned something about, we all kind of remember where we were in our lives when this happened. So in 1999, when The Phantom Menace came out, I was in I'd finished basic training for the Army. I was in AIT, Advanced Individual Training, and the weekend that episode 1 premiered, we were finally off of restrictions and we could dress in civilian clothes and go out into town and have weekends off, basically. So that weekend, the opening weekend for episode 1, I was able to go to downtown Savannah, Georgia, and watch episode 1 with I had to stand in line with all the crowds and no reserved seating, nothing like that. But it was great because we got to stand in line with all the crowds and see everybody. And I watched that movie like 3 or 4 times over the next 3 or 4 weeks. That one and The Matrix and Austin Powers 2, I think was the 3 big films that summer. But then fast forward to 2005 when Revenge of the Sith is coming out, and I'm getting ready to deploy. I'm getting ready to go over to Iraq for the first time, and I'm in Arizona doing training stuff. And my wife calls me and she says, "I got my ticket to the midnight show Thursday night. Ha ha ha!" And she was all excited because she was going to get to see Revenge of the Sith before I was. And I was like, "All right, yeah, just rub it in." Well, I went this was the Monday before it released. I went to the PX. I was wearing a Star Wars shirt. I was buying some Star Wars toys, and the lady said, "Are you going to go watch the movie? They're playing it over at the theater." And I was like, "What are they playing?" She goes, "Yeah, it's one of the older movies, I think. They're just playing it to hype it for the." I was like, "All right, I'll go check it out." She goes, "Yeah, it's free. Go watch it." No, it was a special screening for the troops. Free show, episode 3, a week before it comes out.
Wow.
I was on the phone with my wife, and I'm like, "They're showing episode 3. I got to go." And I hung up on her. Didn't say goodbye. Didn't say I love you. Nothing. And I called her back like 2.5 hours later. She was pissed. Oh. 1, because I had hung up on her, but 2, because I got to see it before her, and she'd already been rubbing it in. So, but
so
it was
really starting to get into it at that point.
Huh?
She was really starting to get into it at that point.
She's. I don't want to say she's always been into it, but it's something that we can do together. And, you go to the movies. She did not go with me to see Solo, and she did not go with me to see Rogue One, but the entire sequel trilogy we went to go see. So, and we went to go see all of those on the theater, and I'll say it flat out. Force Awakens came out on our wedding anniversary. So, nice. Yeah, guess what we did for our anniversary? Yeah, that's right. we went on a date to go see Star Wars.
Nice.
So
Must be nice.
At this point, she puts up with it. She tolerates it. How's that?
Sure. Yeah. Sounds familiar. I did I started a podcast called My Wife Hates Sci-Fi. So that'll tell you a little bit about my life.
No, I got it. She came home. When was this? It was about 2 weeks ago. And I had just got my belt for my Han Solo costume, my belt, my holster, and I had put the whole thing on, put the whole costume on, and I was walking around, and I came downstairs, and she had just come home from work, and she looked at me and she goes, "You were such a nerd," and I was like, "Yes, I am." Just because I'm walking around dressed up like Han Solo. I even went to go pick up Luke from school dressed as Han Solo. So
that's funny.
That's how cool I am.
Mm-hmm.
I'm the cool dad,
Sure, yeah.
But yeah, again, now I want to know the special editions. When the special editions came out, what were your thoughts on that? Because at this point, we've had Star Wars, we've had the dark times where we had no Star Wars, and now it's kind of making a comeback. And we've got the special editions. They're going to release those, and they release them once every 2 weeks, I think. In fact, I think there was a point where you could go to the theater, and if you timed it right, you could see the entire trilogy on the theater. But Cam, again, I'm not sure. Did you go to the theater to see special editions, or was it was that still a little out of your wheelhouse? That was 97.
No, the
January, February of 97.
Yeah, so well, when I watched the original trilogy originally in 1999 or maybe 1998, I watched the special editions on VHS.
Okay.
So I've never seen the actual theatrical editions of Star Wars.
Oh, so sad. Bro, what about you? What were your thoughts on the special editions?
Well, I love behind the scenes and film technology, so I loved the special editions. I loved the extra stuff that George put in there. Some of the changes were like scratching my head, but overall, I was okay with the special editions. And the biggest reason is because, I mean, for God's sake, they're his movies. He can do whatever the
Right.
hell he wants with them. So if he wants to, put a rock in front of R2D2 when he's hiding from Obi-Wan, go, more power to you. But I really enjoyed them. It was like watching the movies all over again from a fresh perspective.
Or if
I
he
do that.
makes Luke scream no as he's falling down a
Yeah, I mean, again, I know, I know a lot of people have issues with them for one reason or another, but I was definitely okay with them. I saw them in the movie theater, and it's I enjoyed them. I mean, I've got, if I've ever wanted to watch the original cut of the movies, I know they're not being offered on streaming through Disney or any other platform, but I still got my laser discs. I still got my VHSs. I've got everything, every format of Star Wars for God knows what reason. Every time a new trilogy came out for whatever reason, I'm like, I need to get it.
yeah.
And I got them all.
I don't own the Betamaxes. That's the
That's the
only
only one, right?
I
Yeah.
don't have because
In
I've
my
got
household, I know Betamax was better quality, but the VHS Betamax Wars, VHS one, and that's what we had.
that it was the same thing as the Blu-ray and HD DVD
Right.
for those of you that are a little younger. It was just like it was like, oh well, Xbox has the HD DVD, but PlayStation has the Blu-ray, so which one's gonna win? And it was like all of you guys that bought all those HD DVDs,
Feel
sorry.
bad for you. Yep.
Yeah.
Sucks to suck.
But yeah, no, Betamax was the only one that I don't have. I actually have. They released a DVD copy of the original theatrical versions. Walmart did
Hmm.
um, back in 2005 or six, somewhere in that neighborhood. But basically, what it was the fans were screaming, "We want the theatrical cuts! We want the theatrical cuts!" And I think George Lucas finally said, "Fine, here," and he said, "Here's the special edition, and on the second disc, you get the theatrical cut. That way, you can see how bad it is." And I happen to have those three movies, and I mean, it is a he didn't clean it up or anything.
Hmm.
Nothing. He didn't make
Oh,
it
wow.
special. I mean, it was like a really rough cut
Wow.
of the original theatrical versions, but it was theatrical down to episode
The ha-
4 was
the hair on the side of the
yeah,
projection screen.
yeah. And it was I mean it was even A New Hope was not called A New Hope.
Right.
It was just Star Wars. It's a period of civil war, because they
Mhm.
didn't add that until Empire came out because they wasn't sure if it was gonna make it. So but my brother and I share a Plex server, and we have a digital copy of the Laserdisc versions of the movie, which are about the cleanest cut of the original theatrical trailer that you can get.
And
So
they are the first time that some of the cast, including George Lucas, did audio commentary on the films,
yeah.
which is really cool.
So every once in a while I'll revisit. There was some stuff that I really, really enjoyed with the special editions. Ian McDermott in Empire. Not to discredit the actress. She was a little old lady that played the Emperor in Empire Strikes Back, but
And the baboon.
yeah, but Ian McDermott is
Oh yeah.
he's always and forever will be the Emperor. So him
Yep.
being in that role for Empire was great.
Sure.
The Jabba scene from A New Hope was. I mean,
But from a
I had seen
historical
that before.
purpose, yeah, from a historical purpose, though, before we actually got those scenes, you heard and you saw some of the footage of the actor walking around and doing this stuff, and you're like, oh, okay, that's interesting. But like I said, from a historical standpoint, I think it's cool to have seen it. You know, Han stepping over Jabba's tail was a little goofy, but I think again, you know, it's just it's kind of cool to have George, you know, kind of tinker in his own sandbox and kind of give us what he wanted to do in the first place, you know.
Well, and that and God help me, and this has always been my biggest gripe is you had Jabba the Hutt in Return of the Jedi, and then he goes in the special editions and Jabba the Hutt's there, and then in episode 1 Jabba the Hutt is there again. And I'm looking at it, I'm going, we know what Jabba looks like. He's in Return of the Jedi. Can we not make the digital copies look exactly like what he looked like in Return of the Jedi? So there's some continuity there. I mean, come on, guys. You're oh well, we've got Han Solo stepping over his tail, and we've got him doing this and that. And I'm like, we'll make him look the same. You can do all this really cool stuff, and that's fine, but just make it look good, you know?
Totally.
But and again, that scene was a scene from was a movie a documentary out called From Star Wars to Jedi that I've mentioned several times. Loved that. I think I own that one on VHS as well.
Mhm.
But From Star Wars to Jedi, the making of a saga, and that scene is actually in that movie. And it was like, oh, here's a scene that was cut, but they didn't get to do it in the film because he couldn't do it, and now we get to do it in Return of the Jedi. We get to see Jabba the Hutt in Return of the Jedi. So then when he comes out with a special edition, and that scene's in there, now do we need Boba Fett in there following Jabba around? That was fan service right there. That's exactly what that was. So, but then we get into the prequels, and we got a lot of green screen in the sequels.
Sure. Yeah. Again, you know, just the progression of the movie technology. You know, one of the things that I will say before I cut out, because I've got another show in a few minutes. You know, George Lucas was a pioneer in filmmaking. I think, you know, he was progressing with the technology with ILM during the you know, when he was doing Young Indiana Jones Chronicles. He was setting up to kind of really redefine what it was to do special effects. You know, weathermen have been standing in front of a green screen for years, but he wanted to kind of bring that technology into filmmaking and stuff like that. You know, whether you like that look or not, I think it was kind of a stepping stone. There were a lot of firsts during the prequels. You know, the green screen technology, characters like Jar Jar Binks, digital cameras during you know, the second of the prequels. So you know, to be able to pioneer a lot of that technology and make films, you know, become a little bit more affordable on the production end, I think is really great to be able to have other artists, you know, use that technology and be able to tell stories in a way that maybe, you know, even a decade before, you know, couldn't, because the technology didn't exist, the technology was not available. So, you know, I always say kudos to George Lucas for being able to, you know, bring that technology to the common man, if you will.
And really too, I mean, you look at any of the Star Wars movies, and there's always something new that has come out of the special effects with the Star Wars movies. And
Yeah.
basically it's like you said, he's kind of the pioneer, and people have built on what he's already done. And I know too, that's always been said of the first Jurassic Park movie. When that movie
Right.
came out, when Steven Spielberg created that movie, George Lucas looked at it and he said, okay, movie technology is where it is to where I can make my sequels now. And actually he did the special editions, and then he did the sequels
Mm,
just because the technology was there, and it was there because of what he had done in the original trilogy. You know,
sure.
just things building, and then he made it even better with the Star Wars, and now building even more. So
Sure. Absolutely. But yes, like I said, with that, I have to cut out. But I mean, Star Wars has revolutionized and continues to revolutionize filmmaking technology. We've got new technologies now with Mandalorian and the volume. I you know, I'm excited to see what other things filmmakers are doing. It didn't do too well in the box office, but movies like Gareth Edwards, The Creator, was an amazing visual masterpiece, I think, for the price that it, cost to make $80 million. It looks like a $300 million film.
Wow.
So I think, obviously also like the Godzilla movie, Godzilla minus one, or plus one, or one of the,
No, it's -1. Yeah.
yeah. But yeah, absolutely. I love technology, and I love kind of like just diving into all that stuff.
Yep. So, and it gets better. It just gets better, except for that second Matrix movie. But whatever.
Yeah, well, we don't talk about that one.
We don't talk about that. Excellent. But guys, thank you so much. I wish I can stay longer. I can talk about this stuff till I'm blue in the face. But if you guys ever want to do this again on another topic about filmmaking technology, I'm in.
Sure, we'll do.
Absolutely.
Thank you for being here, and thank you for joining us tonight.
Yeah, absolutely. Take care, guys.
Later. And that was Scuttlebutt Podcast. Go check them out wherever you find your local podcasts, and we'll give you a plug for that later on in the show. Since he's gone and it's just you and me, do we want to do The Last Jedi? No, I'm kidding. I told Can today we knew we were going to be short staffed, and I was like, well, we can just do a love note to the Last Jedi, since nobody else does that. So
yeah. Unfortunately, the YouTube videos that people upload that talk about the qualities of the film have really tapered off lately.
Yeah.
And it's a shame. I mean, the platform is kind of overrun with people like Star Wars Theory, people like The Quartering, who bank off of negativity. So unfortunately, it's kind of created a community that squashes down positive voices.
And I think too, and this will actually kind of flow right into, I think a lot of times, I think the technology now has gotten so great that people don't want the good story anymore. They're looking for what did Dave Gramillion used to say? They're looking for the Michael Bay
Right.
Star Wars movie. They don't want the good story. They don't want the how the mighty have fallen kind of story. It's more of a how much stuff can we blow up?
Yeah. And it really is a shame, the sequel trilogy in particular, started off with the first two films as, something that was kind of taking Star Wars in a different direction, which is something that I think the franchise kind of needed at the time.
That's what the fans wanted. That was the cool thing about it, was that, oh, good, we're getting new Star Wars films.
Yeah. But I think part of the issue is, Star Wars, it wasn't quite as bad with The Force Awakens, but it really hit a peak with The Last Jedi. The Force Awakens kind of started off this this trend of, dissecting a film so much that it no longer works as a film.
Right.
And, when The Force Awakens came out, that's what kind of started it. People were like, okay, well, this is too similar to A New Hope, and why is this way? Why is this way? It's a carbon copy of A New Hope. That's what a lot of people were saying. And so what Lucasfilm saw that, and they're like, okay, we get it. We'll kind of take steps to kind of lead Star Wars in a new direction and go down a road that was a little bit less traveled in the franchise. And then it turned into it, not necessarily, oh, this is too different for us. It was more, this isn't different in the way that I wanted.
Yeah. And I think a lot of that too had to do with you had the expanded universe. And I think people had that for so long that that's what they expected. That's what they wanted, was that expanded universe. And they're like, no, we're not going to, that story's been told. We don't need to tell that story.
Yeah. Expectations are what kill audience reception of a movie. I saw a quote. This was a couple of years ago. I forget who said it, but it stuck with me the whole time. Is expectations are resentments waiting to happen, and the Last Jedi is kind of the poster child for that. That everybody wanted. Luke, who can crush Star Destroyers with one hand, and Luke, who leads the charge into battle, and Luke, who's this wise, all-knowing Jedi, the Jesus Christ of Jedi, I guess, but
Right.
That's not what they got. And so because of that, because such a central expectation of this movie that you're going to see wasn't met, then suddenly it breaks the whole rest of the movie for you.
Yeah. You didn't get the Luke Skywalker that we had come to love in the Legends tales,
right?
At this point, and a lot of people, and I remember when Force Awakens had come out, and there was a lot of, oh well, he's there on that island, and at the very end, if you look, the way he's standing, and where it looks like he's standing in front of a tombstone, and oh, that's Mara Jade, and oh, they're gonna do Mara Jade in the next one, and he's lost her, and she's dead, and how's that gonna play out? And she's going to hand him the lightsaber, and he's going to take it and say something heroic, like, where am I needed? And run off and challenge everybody. But then you've got to think too. And I've had this discussion with Dr. Dana over at the Sith Dominion, where it's like, you guys had such a high expectation for him that when he fell, it's like these people that follow like preachers and stuff from churches, and they put them up on these pedestals, and they're like, oh, he's such a good, godly man, and he does this and this and this for the community, and he does this. But then what happens when that guy, gets caught in a child pornography ring or something like that? And then it's like, oh my gosh, what in the world happened? Why would you do that? And you're looking at it, go, you know what? He's a human being. He's a man. You can't expect him to be 100% good all the time. And the same could be said with Luke too. I mean, and Dr. Dana's thing is, oh, well, but Luke was all about family and everything else. And, it's like, you know what, that still can, you can still fall from that. One of his big arguments is that Luke would never do that. But Luke kind of fixed that argument himself when he said, at the height of their power, they allowed Palpatine to come in and rise to power and create Darth Vader and create the Empire and basically bring the Sith back into rule. I mean, Luke said it himself when he said that. And then it was like, I saw that happening with Ben, and I was going to stop it. But in that one moment, I stopped myself.
Yeah.
And Ben saw that, and that's where the mistake happened. That's where we had a conflict, not a conflict of interest. What am I thinking of? It's we had Ben was scared and worried because his uncle was about to kill him, and Luke had stopped and looked at it. It was like, oh, what am I about to do here?
Yeah.
And he made a mistake. He made but because of that one little mistake, everything went to pot. And nobody wants to think that Luke Skywalker can make a mistake. That just can't happen.
Yeah, and people tend to overlook or at the very least willingly disregard how the dark side works. And with Luke's family lineage being born of the dark side, basically, of course, naturally he'd be more prone to it. But regardless of whether or not that's the case, we see time and time again, the dark side makes people do things. It makes people think things. It's never really explained in the Revenge of the Sith film, but in the novelization, it goes into a lot of detail about how Anakin's starting to get paranoid that Padme's having an affair with Obi-Wan.
Yep.
And in Anakin's rational mind, he says, no, that's Obi-Wan's like my brother. He was like a father to me growing up. We're war heroes. We've been through countless things together. He would never do that. But then that little voice in the ear is like, yes, he would. Yes, he would. Yes, he would. So, and it caused his, brain to go down a line of thinking that isn't characteristic of him, which leads him to strangle his pregnant wife, nearly to death. Draw lightsabers on children lead a raid of the Jedi Temple. You know, it from an outsider's perspective, you know, someone who's never, you know, really dove into the lore of Star Wars, someone would watch that and be like, well, what the hell's going on with that? Anakin would never do that.
Yep.
But you know what, when you take the Force and how it affects your mind into account, then it's like, okay, well, that makes a bit more sense. Because here's the thing, you know, the light side and the dark side, you could think of them as like opposite sides of a magnet. You know, midi-chlorians, you know, everybody hates those midi-chlorians, but you know, that they're canon, they're part of Star Wars, and they're, you know, kind of a molecular explanation of what Force sensitivity is. You know, when you have a high midi-chlorian count and suddenly you know, your polarity gets reversed on a molecular level, you kind of become a different person,
Right?
like literally and figuratively. So, and it happened to Luke. He's prone to it. It's not like the dark side is one and done. He turned away from it once and suddenly that's it. You know, in true Jedi fashion, he turned away from the dark side again, just not at the right moment, which is a very human thing to do.
Yeah. And yeah, and again, like you said, it's never a one and done thing. I mean, just because you did one good thing to save your father doesn't mean that you're going to do the one good thing to save your nephew, or
Right.
doesn't mean you're going to do the one good thing. You know, you've always got the decision. You've always got the both sides of the Force. You know, the angel and the devil, if you will, standing on your shoulders. Oh, do it this way. No, do it this way. No, you need to do it this way. Oh, you're a weenie if you don't do it this way. So,
And that's the thing. Luke almost didn't save his father. He was
yeah,
ready to kill him. The
he
only
really
thing
was.
the only thing that stopped him was the Emperor distracting him. I guarantee you, if the Emperor had said nothing, if he had just sat there in his throne and continued watching silently, I am positive Luke would have killed Vader. It wasn't until you know, Palpatine did his, you know, nice little dark side monologue, and Luke thought to himself, wait a minute, what's happening here? And he looks down at his hand. Join your father's place at my side. Oh, well, wait a minute. Maybe we're not so different after all.
And again, the same thing happened in The Last Jedi too. I mean, it wasn't as fleshed out as it was in Return of the Jedi,
Sure.
but it was. I was getting ready to strike. I was getting ready to cut him down, and I stopped. He basically he heard the Emperor laugh. He stopped. He thought about what he was doing, and he said, "No, I don't want to do this." But unfortunately, that was when Ben woke up and saw him, and again, everything just kind of went to pot. So
Yeah. And Ben Solo, up until that point, now granted, this wasn't explored much in the films, which is, you know, to their detriment, unfortunately, but Ben Solo, up to that point, had a lot of family issues. Yeah, he had a father that was never around. He had a mother that was always busy with government work, who basically dumped him on Luke. And Luke was kind of a harsh teacher.
yeah.
You know, that's explored fairly well in the Rise of Kylo Ren comic series. And Ben Solo had his share of hardships that would put him in a negative, that would give him a negative predisposition to his family's opinion towards him, because this is, I think this is touched on in the Aftermath trilogy, if I'm not mistaken. I'm not 100% sure, but or maybe it's kind of more on Leia's side. She talks about it, but you know, Ben Solo knows his lineage. He knows what he comes from. He knows that Darth Vader is his grandfather, but he also knows that Luke is this legendary Jedi who supposedly saved the galaxy. So he's got big shoes to fill. That
On both sides, good side and
that,
bad side, because Darth Vader is, let's face it, he's the biggest bad of the galaxy, kind of thing.
Yeah. And that puts a lot of pressure on a kid. So when you wake up out of a dead sleep to see your relative standing over you with their weapon raised, you know, that's kind of a, oh, damn it, I was right moment.
Yeah.
I knew they hated
grandpa
me.
Grandpa was right. Maybe the bad guys are the good guys, and the good guys are the bad guys.
Yeah.
So, And
Yeah,
that's and
sorry.
a lot of people just they don't. That's not my Luke Skywalker. Wasn't that the hashtag? Not my
Oh
Luke
yeah, not
Skywalker.
my
Well,
Luke was the hashtag.
yeah. And I'm like, why?
Yeah,
Why not? Why wouldn't it? Oh, but Luke wouldn't run away and hide from the Force and cut himself off. Why not? That's what Yoda did. That's what Obi-Wan did. Oh, Obi-Wan for sure. We saw that hashed out in the Kenobi series, to where he told that Jedi, he's like, just stop, stop using the Force. Hide. Don't don't do anything.
yeah, yeah, definitely. It's I think that it goes to a slightly deeper level as well because you know Luke going into exile. Okay, he went into exile because he failed. Yoda did the same thing, but at the same time, why would he cut himself off from the Force? Well, my line of thinking is that he cut himself off from the Force. I mean, not only to prevent himself from raising the X-wing out of the water, whatever, but I think he did it to protect the galaxy from himself.
Yeah.
Because he felt again firsthand what the dark side can do, and he, yeah, he was basically the reason that the First Order got created. Why Ben Solo turned to the dark side. So what else would he be capable of if the dark side were to, get a stronger hold of him?
Right. And he knew that he was susceptible to that too,
Yeah.
because again, he had slipped into it with Vader, but then again with Ben as well. So
Mm-hmm.
he knew he was at risk.
Yeah.
So they
And
it,
to be in a galactic war with your own nephew, oh, that's like ground zero for dark side corruption because that adds that adds a layer of I don't drama is not the right word, but you're going to war with your own family, and this war
right.
could change the shape of the galaxy. Luke, if he went through with it, very easily could have completely turned because that's a lot of that's a lot of shared trauma.
Yeah. So one thing I will say about the evolution of Star Wars, and we touched on it a little bit, the music has always been good.
Oh, for sure.
Always been good. And that even includes the Rogue One soundtrack and Solo and God, The Mandalorian, Book of Boba Fett, all the stuff that John Williams hasn't done, but people have been inspired by him. And I mean, does anybody have anything bad to say about John? Has he ever done a bad soundtrack?
I don't think so. I have seen some soundtracks where he's used similar musical cues to other ones,
Oh
like
yeah.
well, one that always stood out to me was if you watch the scene of the chase through Coruscant at the beginning of Attack of the Clones, the music playing there, and put that next to the music of in Harry Potter and the Chamber of Secrets, whenever not Ron, when Harry and Draco are playing Quidditch and they're going through the trench,
Mm-hmm.
there's a trumpet cue that goes. Dun, 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 dun. It's the exact same thing in
Yeah.
both films.
And so help me God, the March. If you go listen to the March of the Resistance from from the sequel trilogy, just anywhere the March of the Resistance is played, I know, and I can't peg it, but I've heard that march or something eerily similar to it
I feel like I
somewhere
have
else.
too.
It's pretty close, and I think it's from the prequel trilogy. I haven't really dove into it, but one that really stands out to me is from Jurassic Park when Nedry goes off to go steal all the embryos. The music that's playing there, the track was called Nedry Steals the Embryo. But if you go and watch JFK, that exact same track is used when they're discussing Lee Harvey Oswald's past in JFK
Gotcha.
with Kevin Costner and everybody else in Hollywood, because that movie had literally everybody in it. But yeah, that was it was not that there was no oh, it's slightly different. No, it was exactly bar for bar, measure for measure, exactly the same. So it was quite amusing that he borrowed from that one, but and he does, and that's fine because you know what? It's at the end of the day, it's good music. So, and again, you've got the guys that dumb cats. You've got the guys that do their music just based on his stuff. I mean, the solo
Yeah.
soundtrack was amazing. The Rogue One soundtrack was great, and they borrowed stuff from it, but that made it sound like Star Wars. So
Yeah. And I know that everybody has a certain Star Wars song that they associate with Star Wars like immediately. I mean, for some people it's Binary Sunset, for some people it's the Imperial March. And it's funny, the first song that I always think of when I think of Star Wars is actually one of the main themes from the Phantom Menace. I think the first time you hear it is whenever the Trade Federation is going down in the dropships to Naboo, and you hear. Yeah,
that may be it. That may be my March of the Resistance. That's similar.
Oh, really? Oh, well,
I think I have to go look at it now. But yeah, I know exactly what you're talking about.
Yeah, that's like pinnacle Star Wars music for me right there.
Mine's always been the Imperial March. That's there have been times when we've been at like professional sports games, either Stars games. There have been times when we've been watching a hockey game on TV and they're doing commentary over it, and they're talking about the play that just happened. And in the background, you can hear them playing the Imperial March. And I mean, it's just like you can barely hear it, but you hear it? You hear it? I'll tell my wife, yeah, I hear it. I hear it. They're playing Star Wars music. I'm like, yeah. Yeah, they are.
Oh, and that's such a wife thing to say too. Is like, yep, they're playing Star Wars music. It's like, no, that's the Imperial March. You get that right.
But no, yeah, it's again, the music to me is amazing. I again, John Williams. I don't think he's written anything bad. I mean, he wrote the theme for the Olympics, for God's sakes. The Olympics. That's
quite a notch on your resume.
I know, right? I mean, forget like I bought my dad this 4 CD set one year for Christmas, and it was like 100 of the greatest film, or 100 of the greatest movie songs or scores or whatever. And it was just like the opening, like they had The Godfather on there, the theme from The Godfather, 100 greatest movie themes is what it was. And I swear to God, John Williams had like 75% of them. You know, you had Jurassic Park, you had Harry Potter, you've got E.T., you've got Jaws, you've got the Star Wars movies, you got the Indiana Jones movies. You've got, I mean, you could just go on and on and on. There are some movies where you're looking at it and you're like, God, John Williams wrote that one too. I think Home Alone. I think he wrote the Home Alone. It's like, well, shoot, he's written Christmas music now. So, Christmas music. What did I see? We had a discussion like this last year at around Christmas time of movies that are considered Christmas movies, but they're not really Christmas movies.
Right.
God, what was it? I talked to Debbie about it. Hang on, because I saw one the other day before yesterday, and I was like, oh my God, it's a Christmas movie.
Yep, you got Home Alone, you got Die Hard, you got Gremlins. Though that does kind of lean more into Christmas stuff.
Gremlins. God, I wish I could remember what. Oh, Rambo: First Blood, the first Rambo movie, happens at Christmas time. It's a Christmas movie.
Does it?
Yeah.
Oh man, I got to go back and rewatch that.
I was watching First Blood last night, in fact, because I messaged Debbie. I'm like, oh, another Christmas movie, Rambo: First Blood. There's Christmas trees in the background, and it's takes place at Christmas time.
I
Call it
remember,
Christmas.
I remember Rambo 3 being like, you know, the franchises lean into cheesy 80s action.
Oh, Rambo 2 was like that. The second one was like that.
I don't remember much about Rambo 2, but I do remember Rambo 3. I'm pretty sure he blows up a helicopter with like a bow and arrow.
Yeah. That's typical. So, what are you gonna do? All right. Did we have anything else? We good? Was there anything else you wanted to talk about?
Well, no. I think we pretty much covered it. You know, the original trilogy was all practical effects. You know, prequel trilogy was all green screen and CGI, and sequel trilogy was kind of mix of the two.
I was gonna say the sequel. They did a lot more of the practical effects than I mean, even the Mandalorian now is. I mean, Grogu is a practical effect.
Yeah.
BB-8 which very easily could have been a CGI thing. No, it's a practical effect. It was a real droid. So
yeah, that was like one of the main talking points of The Force Awakens leading up to its release was, oh, this is the franchise's return back to practical effects, because at the time people didn't know yet that they hated the sequel trilogy. So they were like, oh, this is gonna be our big departure from the prequels.
Yeah, because before all the sequels came out, the prequels were trash.
Of course.
And then the sequels came out, and now all of a sudden the prequels are
just masterworks of filmmaking.
Yeah, exactly. Even though you've got things like, I don't like sand.
Yeah.
You get that, and so help me God, go watch episode 1 again. There's a fart joke in there. Go watch it. Yeah, there's a fart joke in episode 1. Come on.
Yeah. You got fart jokes. You got poop jokes.
Yeah. Oh, yes, I do. Oh. Oh. We took on the water now. Okay, Dad?
Okay, this has always been a big issue for me. I mean, I find it kind of comical now, but but before the Battle of Naboo, why in the hell does Boss Nass make Jar Jar a general of his army? Jar Jar, as far as we know, doesn't have any military experience.
No, he doesn't. And I think
he was banished for being clumsy.
It had to do with the fact that, and I think it was explored a little bit in the novel, and I haven't read the novel in ages, but I think it had to do with the fact that, and this was more why he became a senator, was because he had been very diplomatic in bringing the Naboo and the Gungans together as a unified society. So because of that, it's...
Yeah. Well, I guess if he didn't do that, we wouldn't have the scene of Jar Jar juggling the electric balls.
Right, that one, or where he steps on the droid. He kicks the droid that's already been shot in half, and it gets tangled in his foot. And as he's kicking it around, the blaster's going off, killing other droids.
Yeah,
because that's believable.
Oh, of course. Well, Star Wars.
Ahmed Best, if you're watching, and I know you catch the show from time to time, we don't hate you as an actor. We are merely ragging on the fact that some of the stuff that was written for you was a little outlandish. And you were just doing your job, and we appreciate you for that. And thank you for giving us something to laugh at. We appreciate that too.
We also appreciate you for being in The Mandalorian.
Oh, God bless you for that one. I've got your Lego minifigure over there somewhere.
Yep, I've
got it as Jar Jar and as you. So, all right. You got any shameless plugs for us tonight?
Yeah. The Flash video is going up this weekend. I hadn't been able to do that because of the freaking hurricane and the fallout that happened because of that.
Speaking of which, before you go any further, how are you on that one, on that front?
All right. We lost power for a little while. Luckily, the area that I live in, I live in Lake Wales, Florida. The area that I live in is at the top of of kind of the center of the town. It's called Spook Hill. It's fairly elevated, so we didn't really get any flooding, but definitely lots of wind and rain. All kinds of crap was getting blown around, and I spent about 3 hours the morning of putting up hurricane shutters, which was a royal pain in the ass. But
They didn't make you go to work?
no, that they tried to have me going for a half day, but I was like, what the hell for? My provider's not in the office, so I don't have any patients. All I'd be doing is sitting there twiddling my thumbs, doing triage for calls that aren't even going to come in because no one's seeing because everyone's preparing for the storm.
Nobody's here.
So
if they're not here preparing for the storm, they've left the state. Come on now.
Yeah. So I was like, you know what? No, I'm going to take this time to make sure I'm a bit more prepared. And I'm definitely glad that I did that because I have no clue what the hell was trying to hit my windows. All I heard at times, above the wind that sounded like, it was trying to blow my roof off. I just heard on my freaking shutters.
It was The Walking Dead. They were trying to get in.
There you go. The windy dead.
Yes. Okay, so anyway, back to shameless plugs. Go for it.
Yeah, so that video of where I discuss ways that The Flash could have been improved goes up this weekend.
Oh, the movie The Flash.
Yeah.
Ugh. That's a lot.
No, I know. It's not a great movie by any means. It kind of holds a bit of a special place in my heart. I have, I think, a bit of a deeper appreciation for it than most, unfortunately. But there are some things that really could have elevated the movie, and that's going to be going up this weekend. And I'll be getting back into my regular weekend uploading.
Awesome. Well, this is Thursday, so Saturday we have Friday. Since Debbie's not here, I'll do this for her. So Friday, Debbie, I think will be on Federation Fridays over at the Geek and I podcast. So go look them up. Saturday here on Feast of Fandoms, I think we have the Geek Gauntlet. I know William was also in the path of both of those hurricanes, so it's I know last week was kind of hit or miss. I haven't heard this week, but he's been on the chat, so I'm gonna assume he's back in action.
Yeah, William, if you're watching, glad you're okay.
Yep. He got hit by both of them.
Yeah.
So, then Monday we will be back for episode 6 of Agatha All Along. Have you been watching that one at all?
I haven't actually. I've had other stuff that I've been watching. I just haven't had the inclination yet, but I'll get there.
It's been enjoyable.
Oh, that's good.
It's been fun. Debbie's really liked it, but we'll be back on MCU Mondays for that. Then Tuesdays, the Sith Dominion is on. I don't know. Oh no, they're not going to be here next Tuesday for the next 2 weeks because Dr. Dana is going to be in the Caribbean enjoying himself. Must be nice.
Oh, the nerve.
Yeah, I'm telling you, right? And then, as you know, next Thursday and the Thursday after, we will not be here. So that gives us like 2 weeks off.
No.
Oh, it's fine. We can come up with a good topic then. We still have, when we come back, we'll have about a month before Skeleton Crew starts.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah, so Skeleton Crew starts in December. So be looking forward to that. So that's going to do it for us here at the Cantina for this month. We will see you all next month. Y'all have a great rest of your month. Have an awesome Halloween. Send us your pictures of your dress-ups, your kids' dress-ups, whatever. We will see all of you in November. May the Force be with you all.
I don't like sand. It's coarse and rough and irritating, and it gets everywhere.
Pocket sand. Yeah.